Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. In the last video, I mentioned how Nicola Sturgeon was still pulling the strings, how she is now in charge of Swinney, having previously been the puppeteer of Humza Yousaf. And they're talking about this stain of sturgeon that's still contaminating the SNP even now. Over a year after she left, 18 months after she left, and how they're all sort of crawling and sort of beholden to her, even to this day. This woman's baleful influence still holds court within the inner sanctum of the most treasured parts of the SNP. That elite of elites at the top, they still praise her, adorn her, adorate, treat her as some kind of independence goddess, the mother figure of SNP, politics. But she's no such thing, of course. She's a dangerous, psychopathic, awful human being with zero sort of compassion. It's her way or the highway, and no one will ever be allowed to stop Nicola doing exactly what she thinks. Let's have a look to see why, even now, John Swinney is just the latest in one of her sort of little glove puppet rulers. It's not good though, is it? Here goes. So traces of Nicola Sturgeon are still all over the SNP, led by her slithering acolyte, John Swinney. What a wonderful description. He is a slithering little snake, isn't he? Nationalist stalwart Dorothy Grace Elder tells Bernard Ponsonby and Alex Massey that the First Minister is very much of an acolyte of whoever sat on him last. And I bet Nicola was sitting on him a lot. He was her footstool. That's what she does. It's the cult of personality. We've seen it time and again in all the worst possible places. 1930s Germany, you have Chairman Mao, Stalin and all that. It's all the cult of personality that ends up making misery for the people, and she is no different. Former SNP MSP Dorothy Grace Elder has launched an astonishing attack on the party with just over 2 weeks to go till the general election, suggesting it is still controlled by Nicola Sturgeon, because of course it still is. It is Sturgeon's party in all but name. Which is why it must be defeated, just to totally destroy her personally. She describes John Swinney as a Sturgeonista who slides and slithers and is very much an acolyte of whoever sat on him last. And she says, I think you need a dino rod into that SNP front bench. Well, I think so, because you get dino rod in when the drains are filled and stuffed with shit. And that is absolutely the case with the front bench, I think, of the SNP. Turds one and all. Old turds, young turds, fresh turds, pregnant turds, but nonetheless turds. They say you can't polish one. No, but you can roll them in glitter, and that's all they are. Glittery turds. The comments come in the latest podcast from Scottish political journalists Bernard Ponsonby and Alex Massey. The former investigative journalist was an SNP MSP from 1999 to 2002 before quitting to sit as an independent. Asked about Swinney's plans for the party, said, I do remember suffering through being in his group when he was the leader the first time round. And I don't think he will change in any way whatsoever. He's very much a Sturgeonista, and at that time, way back, and we're talking 20 years ago, he was so obedient to Sturgeon on everything. Sturgeon was allowed this. She was given this power by the party and then abused it. And yet, look at what she's achieved. Look at all the things she's achieved. Nope, can't think of anything. Anyway, she describes Sturgeon as being like a woodpecker, pecking away at a tree stump. Every morning she'd be round at his office, nebbing, adding, and he did what she wanted, and he still will do, because the traces of Sturgeon are all over the party, unfortunately. Yes, little bird droppings of Sturgeon everywhere, isn't it? Because wherever she goes, she just drops her shit. Bum, bum, bum. They're all spattered with it. There are all these crawling things that leap out. When you move a stone in the garden, you see everything hustling and bustling and moving. That's the SNP. You lift the stone that's Sturgeon and you look at all those base crawling insects and bugs and beetles and worms, all the corruption. That's the SNP. Elder described independence as an honourable cause, but said that the leadership of the SNP had failed the wider movement over the past 10 years, adding, I think you need Dinah Rodin to that front bench because most of them are still the same old hands. She said the First Minister fails to answer questions. Well, yes, of course he does. He daren't. He either doesn't know the answers or he knows the answers that he can't say because they'd be so damaging, so keep stum. He said he slides and he slithers. He's exactly the same of the old John Swinney that we remember. That old newspaper line, Honest John, is all just nonsense. Nobody believes a word of him, do they? He is an horrible person. Swinney replaced Alex Salmond to become SNP leader for the first time in 2000, with Miss Elder saying the bullying got completely out of hand after Salmond left. It was down to playground level and nothing intellectual. They could get away with anything, she added, insisting that when people complained, John Swinney disappeared. You could always speak to Salmond, but not Swinney. Swinney would run away because he is spineless, isn't he? He is a jellyfish. He's just a horrible jellyfish and nothing. A cipher. And that's exactly what Sturgeon wants. She doesn't want anyone with a personality. If they've got a personality, they might stand up to her, and she can't be having that. And that's why she got, Mr. Success Story, Hamza Yousaf, failed upwards all his career. And then Swinney, the horrible empty casket, the eunuch, doesn't have his own voice, doesn't have his own spine. He only stands upright because Sturgeon's arm is firmly planted right up his arse, operating his mouth. On resigning from the party after a disagreement with Swinney and Sturgeon, Miss Elder said there was only one way out: to resign from the SNP and to remain on the Health Committee. And what went wrong after the referendum? The veteran Nat replied, simply Sturgeon and her acolytes. And she also suggested Sturgeon wanted a coalition deal with the Greens because she had lost control of the party grassroots. We got into this awful turmoil where we were no longer fighting poverty. We were talking about pronouns. That sort of craziness stems from personalities. And as I said, it was a cult of personality. And look at her there, planning her next evil move like some supervillain. I can't abide that woman. I loathe her with every ounce and scintilla of my being. Coming up. So what's to do? How do you rid this whole party, the SNP, of that stain, of that stench of sturgeon? Well, I think the only way is to eradicate the entire top team. Get rid of all the old has-beens, all the old snakes in the grass. Bring in new people. That's one method. Alternatively, and I think the preferred method for most people, is just let the party wither, dry, die, desiccate, and float away in the wind and never be thought of again. Make it history. Condemn it to the past, and with it all the corruption, the crime, and everything that went with it. It's up to you. Vote them out. Be done. Thanks for listening. Take care. Do hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a message, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.